Hey besties, it's Tina,
Karen, and Jules here.
Tools down, time to chat work, life, well-being, and relationships. You're listening to
Let's Take It Offline.
Welcome back to the second part of 20 lessons from my 20s. So just to recap, Karen here, I've just turned 30 and I've been very reflective. And the first two parts we talked about personal lessons and career lessons. Now this part we're going to talk about finance and love and relationships. The first one, which is lesson number 11 on finance, is that money doesn't buy you happiness, but it buys you a lifestyle and options. The more money that you have, the more options you have, and definitely lifestyle and lifestyle creep. So
yeah,
that's what I learned in my 20s, is that that's what money really buys you.
I feel like I didn't have any money in my 20s. I feel like, because I was
But that's because it bought your lifestyle.
yeah, it did, but I feel like I spent it. My cash flow was really poor, that was for sure. Like I made, I don't know, $300, waitressing per week, and that would go on like drinks,
Clubbing.
alcohol, the pub. You go to a uni class and then you go meet your friends at the pub and you just drink, and then it was all gone. But I wouldn't be able to function that way now if I went out with $300 and that was it.
yeah. One thing as well I wish I learned much earlier in my 20s is there's a difference between money and wealth.
Yeah.
Like money is just cash, right?
Yeah.
But wealth is different. Like yes, like you can use money to buy a lifestyle, but the earlier that you start to think about wealth and accumulating assets that will give you long-term wealth, I think that was the turning point. I think that was Rich Dad's Poor Dads.
Yes.
That sort of gave me that thinking.
Yeah.
It took me a while though to like completely change and shifted how I think about money.
Yeah.
But yeah, it does help when you get a bit older and you get paid a bit more.
Yeah, it does. But I would say one other lesson as part of all of this is that to be really, really mindful of lifestyle creep.
Yes.
Like that is something that
Yeah.
I learned a lot after moving out, is that all of a sudden you want a specific level of lifestyle. You want that nice
Yeah.
piece of furniture, or you want to eat out at that restaurant, or you want to buy that new
omakase.
yeah. Lifestyle creep is really real, so definitely don't live above your means,
Yeah.
especially on Tina's point around if you want to accumulate wealth.
Yeah. And like some of the materialistic stuff like cars and things like that, like is very easy to get into that that mindset of like, oh, like I can reward myself with a car, or like I want to look a certain way, want people to perceive me a certain way. But generally, like this is one advice that someone, or like I can't remember if I watched it on YouTube or TikTok or Instagram, whatever, but if you can't afford something twice over, don't buy it.
Or like also the other thing is I've learned that if I am thinking about purchasing this item like for a whole month, then maybe that's when I really, really want
Yeah.
it.
Like
Yeah.
that rice cooker that I keep harping on about.
I actually need a new rice cooker, and I've been thinking about it.
But you know what? That's so true. Like I recently bought a nice handbag for work, which I've been thinking about for like, because I remember like when I was in Europe with you, Karen, we went into some of the shops and I looked at some of the items and I was like, okay, I'm going to sit on it.
Yeah.
And then I sat on it for another 6 months. I'm like, okay, like this is definitely worth investment.
Yeah, you really want it.
I don't really go out on a whim to just buy things.
Yeah. Agree.
And the thing as well is like the more you buy, like the more you have to maintain and the more you have to like pay for the maintenance.
Yeah.
Like if you have a nice car, the cost to like cover it with insurance, and if you have any parts are falling apart or not working, like it's just headache.
Yeah. Or if you're like, getting your nails done every second week and your eyelash extensions done every 2 weeks as well.
Jules feel like this is a person.
Do you know what? Is this an attack on Jules Day? Or I've actually, as you know, have had to give up a lot of that because I'm like, okay, I can't buy a house and also get my nails done and my eyelashes done every second week. So I had to cut it. So then I found ways to obviously still have nice nails and all that sort of stuff. But it's now just, well, how does that fit within my budget? What are the things that I can cull and cut within my lifestyle that means that I have still a much better lifestyle later down the track? So there's more of a long-term goal perspective versus I want it now, impulse, and I want to look good, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I think your perspective changes as you do get older because you're thriving to meet those, you know, long-term goals that you've set for yourself.
Yeah, I agree. I would say though that like in terms of lifestyle creep, I did make a decision that I wanted to move out on my own, and I knew that that would be probably double what I was paying sharing a flat. But that was a conscious decision that I made at the time, but I time bound it. Like I'm going to do this for a year and see how it is. And I had to like redo all my budgeting to make sure that that happened. But if you do have that like lifestyle creep that you want to do, just be sure that, like Tina said, you can afford it twice over. You can actually afford it and not go into a cycle of like debt. Yeah.
And to that point as well, not meant to like give any financial advice because who I am, I know nothing about finance, but invest early because compound interest is a real thing. Like if you can just put away a couple of $100 even every month to like put in like an ETF or some like very stable stocks, over time that would do a lot of good for you. It's not about, unless you're very well trained and you're well versed, and we know friends who are, you know, who do this on a regular basis and they pick and choose all the stocks that, you know, might give them like the highest gains the shortest amount of time. If you don't have that kind of knowledge, and I don't think in like the three of us are not like finance whiz, but try just like the more time you have in the market, the better. Not timing the market, so you don't try to like buy at a dip or whatever, but just the longer you are in the market, over long term, that will always accumulate.
Yeah.
And over, I remember speaking to a financial advisor like 10 years ago, and he showed me this chart. It's like what you want to invest, you don't want to look at for the next 10 years. So you don't want to think about, oh, would that, you know, that might dip tomorrow, that might spike, whatever. Over the long term, it always goes trending up.
Yeah. So point number 12 is to invest in assets, right? Build wealth through assets.
Yeah, and I wish I bought property when I was a lot younger, because I had that mentality of I don't want a big loan, no, you know, and then I'm going to spend the rest of my life paying 25, 30 years paying for it. But now I'm obviously regretting that decision.
I think that's still a very valid way of thinking, because a lot of people don't want to get into 30 years worth of debt, right? And it's about financial freedom. Like, don't take on loans or debts that you don't think you can service, and definitely like just think about the kind of lifestyle that you want and how assets will help with that, because some people might decide that renting is better for them. Yeah.
Well, there's always good debt and bad debt, right?
Yeah.
And how you perceive it and what your strategy is. But one of the other key tips, and I certainly got sucked into this when I was a uni student, I had, I don't know, 3, 4, maybe 5 credit cards, which was insane, because I would do a balance transfer as well. And I had no idea what I was doing. But I know, it's crazy, right? So look, I you live and you learn, and now I've been through that, and now I'm very careful with my credit card. I'm very mindful. I know that there's a rippling effect with credit cards, because it's your credit history. It affects you getting a loan. It affects you when you pay the bills, or even when you connect in the internet. They want people with a good credit rating. Lesson is, don't do what I did and take 4 or 5 credit cards. Learn to say no, and don't live above your means, essentially. But don't get sucked into what the banks do, because they genuinely do target you at that stage, because you're in that frivolous mindset and stage of wanting to spend, and then you end up kind of getting tied down to those banks because you're having to make repayments that are completely above your means.
And one thing that I started doing as well is setting like a monthly reminder to pay any credit card debts. Like I have only got one credit card and I don't really use it much, but occasionally I'll put like a few items on there just to get like the points or whatever. And sometimes I would forget to pay to transfer money into the credit card account. before the cutoff, and then I'll get charged for like a late payment fee, which is so silly.
Yeah,
right?
I actually on my one, banks now allow you to automatically debit from an account, so that's what I do.
Yeah.
I use it as my like cash flow, my day to day. Everything goes through the credit card because I'm using it as a strategy to rack up points to travel. So I just pay it off every single month, the whole thing, and then it's literally everything else goes on there. So whatever my pay is will go towards paying off that credit card, and then I'm just using it to rake up all the points.
That's a good way to do it.
Yeah, I mean, look, everyone's got a different strategy when it comes to using credit cards, but just make sure that you have one and you actually pay it off. And there's a reason why you have one. If you don't need one, then maybe it's a good way to get rid of it as well.
So number 14, this is something that I'm super, super, super passionate about, and I can't advocate for it highly enough. So this is probably more towards your late 20s, but the sooner you can, just start building a team of experts around you. And we were joking about this, but think about your, like, how you run your life, right? It's kind of like having a board of directors on your live board. So you've got like so you might get like a financial advisor, you might have a mortgage broker that you can always go back to and work with every time that you need to refinance, or, you know, maybe buy a new property, and then tax accountants who know your history and can provide really solid advice. Like, it might take a few times, so you might have to try a few different people to get there, but in general, outsource the things that you don't have expertise in, so you can focus on doing your, you know, day-to-day job, and just not have to, and just have that peace of mind that you've got all the best advice and all the best, you know, people around you to support you. And yes, there will be a fee attached to all of the services, but think about, like, you get what you pay for, I guess, in terms of services, and like the long-term savings or whatever you can make out of that is much more than what you're paying.
Yeah. So on this point, I've been talking to some of my friends a lot about this, like having your own board of directors. So I have a friend who's actually a private banker, and he's told me, like, the ultra rich pretty much have this system in place, their own board of directors, and they'll make sure that they're like their banker, their accountant, or their like financial advisor or mortgage broker is like, they have a really good relationship with them.
That's so funny.
But that's also because they have money to pay them. Probably.
Correct. But that is a learning that you can take from those that know what they're doing, right?
But that's so funny that your friends say that, because I learned this from Billions, the TV show.
Oh, there we go.
And they're like, you know, like the characters, like the
ultra
rich. They're like ultra rich, right? And they have really good people who can give like sound legal advice, tax money advice. So yeah, you can start building that, and it might, like, when you're younger, you might not have the money to pay someone who is premium, but maybe talk to friends who are in the finance career track, or like talk to a friend who's an accountant and get advice from them, right?
I learned this from my partner, and I didn't have the luxury of having a lot of good mentors when I was younger, and I probably have probably more mentors now in my 30s, or I seek them out more.
Yeah.
Whereas when I was younger, I was just living life, didn't care. But if I, again, had my time again, I probably would have surrounded myself with all of the right people, learn all those skills from either friends or family members, or even, and being a lot more curious, as opposed to living life the way that I did, where I was very much a frivolous 20-year-old, just kind of like, yeah, I'm going to go with the wind and do that, and sure. Yeah. I didn't sit and think about what my life would be later on, because I was in that enjoyment phase.
Wow. That is in itself a different lesson to learn. Like,
that's
sometimes
how you've met Tina and I.
Yeah. Sometimes you have to sit and think and reflect and plan, you know, even in your 20s.
I agree. I think it's because it's something that they don't teach you at school.
No.
They only teach you how to be
horrible.
good academics and how to get the career path going, but they don't teach you about life.
That's the thing. Like, we were trained to be very good workers, but we didn't get taught about emotional intelligence. We didn't get taught about how to manage your financial estates, Yeah. So
I think it's
real
different
gap.
for all three of us too, right? Because all three of us have Asian heritage, and it's not, I don't think it's a focus for Asian families, because what they seem to care about is more the academic side of things is a focus. But then it's like life lesson, just kind of go your thing, do your thing. As long as you've got a good job, and let's use doctor as an example, as long as you're a doctor, everything will work out for you. But that's not what life is, right?
I think it definitely depends on the family. Yeah.
It definitely depends on the family, but what I see as a common theme with a lot of Asian families is they put a lot of emphasis on your career as opposed to everything else.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
This takes us on to our next segment. Now it's all about what we learned in our 20s, all about love. And
Oh God.
it makes me sigh a little bit, because I don't even want to think about this, but I've said this in our Modern Love episode, and I stand by this, I guess, tip is never settle. Because when you're in your 20s, like I meet people, and kudos to those who have high school sweethearts.
Yeah.
Kudos to those, but I feel like if you don't have a high school sweetheart, date as many people as you can. Don't worry too much about being female and having to have babies, because every single person you date, you learn a little bit about yourself. You learn a little bit about life. You learn about what you like, what you want, what you don't like. And then when you go and find that person that you really care for, everything falls into place.
Yeah. But also, I would also caveat that to say, date a lot of people, but set boundaries for yourself, because it's very easy to maybe like
Get lost
in that, and like, you know, there's a whole thing about you need to figure out your relationship with your body, sex, what that means to be sexually involved with someone, because especially for females, it triggers also hormones in you. It's all good and well if you want to have casual sex with people, but at the same time, just be mindful of what that might mean for your own body and your, you know, like physical, emotional states. And also the other thing is, yes, date a lot of people, but make up your mind quickly and move on. The worst thing that you can do is to kind of like be in that state where you like can't make up your mind about someone, and then next thing you know, you're already too involved and you can't like get out of a situation, or like
this is fresh for her, so I don't know, it's still resonating. But she's not in her 20s anymore, so it's a little bit different.
It's really interesting because like I have heard many a times that like those that didn't settle and eventually found someone in their like 30s, mid to late 30s, they get married really quickly, like within like a year,
because you know what you want.
Because you know what you want, which is so interesting. It's like,
and listen to your intuition.
Yeah, listen to your intuition. And like Jules, you said, like we have the option of doing egg freezing now, or
totally.
So we don't have to worry as much about timing of children.
Yeah, and it's not a burden to be like, oh my God, okay, I'm 32, I'm 33, I need to have babies soon. It's a case of, no, find the right person that's for you and you're for them. Figure that out.
100%.
Yeah, figure that out first. And like, I know that a lot of people in their 20s that stay with a partner and they're in a toxic relationship, but they just stay with them because of the timing they've been together. Oh, we've been together 10 years ago. So it's toxic. Why stay there? Get out. Go learn about yourself. Go travel the world and enjoy. And you might meet like, I don't know, some hot Italian guy overseas and end up moving over there. Like you hear so many stories about people doing that.
Yeah.
So just live life, really.
Yeah. 100%. So lesson number 16 is in a similar vein, is to not let breakups ruin your life. And in a couple of ways, it's like, don't let it really let it necessarily to overtake your feeling of self-worth and your confidence. And also the other thing is to get help and therapy if you really need it. Like that is probably one of the things I wish I did, is I think I like mulled over like a past breakup for too long, and I didn't realize I needed actually help. And I wish I had gotten like therapy like way earlier to help get through it. And I think I would have gotten through it a lot faster than I did. But like also don't get hung up on someone. Like if it was the end of a season for you,
There's a reason for it.
There's a reason for it. Like don't like necessarily feel like that is the only option you have in life. There are plenty of fish in the ocean.
The world is your oyster.
The world is your oyster.
Well, I saw a video on TikTok. Yes, TikTok again. But it was beautiful. So this guy was saying, imagine if your person is showing up in a year's time. What would you do if you know for sure 100% that person's going to show up in a year's time? What would you do right now, from now to then, right? So that kind of reveals a lot about, regardless of the situation, like the relationship situation, what would I do to fulfill all my needs? Like, would I go out and like enjoy beautiful times with my family, my friends? Would I pursue my dreams, change my jobs, moving overseas? Or would I just sit there and wait for that person to come and just waste like a whole year of my life, you know?
You're not Rapunzel. I think I said this before as well. You're not Rapunzel. They're not just going to
calm down.
You.
So yeah, like definitely. And yeah, like relationship is one part of your life, but then there's so many other things like your career, your hobbies, your friends, your family, and like you definitely need a healthy relationship to have a fulfilling life. But there are so many other things.
Yeah, and like this person that you break up with, they're in the past. So
leave them there.
Yeah, leave them there. Exactly. Like if you're focusing on the past, you're missing out on the present. And you'll forgo, like, really, like, that's
I feel a little personally attacked.
I was like, I wonder if Tina's feeling personally attacked.
Them love and light and thank them for all that they did for you and the time that you shared. But at the same time, like, you know, you are at, like, that point now where you have to go different paths. Yeah. And so it's good for you and it's good for them to kind of leave that behind and move on.
I do think that there's a grieving period. Yeah. So you grieve, but don't grieve forever.
Depends if how emotionally attached you are. That's number one. Number two, don't dwell because everyone's lives go on. If you're the only one dwelling, think about the other person. Are they dwelling? Probably not. They're probably out there, you know, talking to another girl. Who knows? Anyway, Tina's probably feeling personally attacked again. It's not about you.
Well, anyway, so looking forward then, if you start dating someone, right? This is tip number 17. If you start talking to someone, having a crush on someone, you're like, oh, I wonder if they like me or not, then that means that they don't like you. Because if a girl or guy likes you, you know, you won't be confused. You know?
What if it's early and you're still like...
testing the water?
You know, you're still trying to rub shoulders a little bit. So
yeah, but then you will stop, like you won't be confused still, you know? Like, it's like
I feel like if you want something enough, you will... show intention.
Also wanting something, but also being ready for something as well, right? Like if someone is right and ready for you and they like you, you would know.
I think it's situational because it depends on whether you have like this, let's say, I don't know, a long-term friend as an example. They've always been in your life and then suddenly you thought, oh, I would never go there, but now I'm going there.
But the moment that clicks over, you notice a difference.
Yeah, I think what Tina's referring to is like...
There's an intensity there that you know. Like they want to spend time with you. They will ask you out. They will message you. And you won't be left like thinking, oh, like haven't heard from them for like a week. Then that means that maybe they're into you, but they're not ready. I think that's in general. And if life is short, if you feel like you're already struggling this much and you're not even together yet, then maybe they're not the right person for you.
Oh, look, I get where you're going with that. And that's probably more of a like a little dating tip in a way too, right? Is even when you're swiping left or right, if they don't respond to you for a week, see ya. Yeah. Like why did you not respond?
I won't even remember who I swiped last week.
That's a separate conversation and a separate problem.
Well, I'm not that I'm on the dating apps, but you know, like a week is a long time in a dating app world. And then the next thing, number 18, is to be upfront about what you want out of relationship. So I think in your 20s, there'll be a period of time where you would just go along and have a lot of fun with whoever, as long as there's a vibe and you generally feel like there's a connection with them. But at some point, when you have made up your mind about what you want to do with your life, whether career, whether it's family, whether it's, you know, having kids, and then you start to date someone, then just make sure that you're upfront. So you set the right expectations. So if you want to, say, for example, move overseas in a year, you should tell them. Also, if you know deep down inside that you want children, then why beat around the bush? Just let them know that I want to have children. If you don't want to have children, I don't think it's going to work.
Maybe not on the first date.
Not on the first, not a first date conversation.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more with that. Don't play games. Mind games are not good if you're actually into that person. So yeah, those are the lessons about love. And then the last two to round it out are lessons on that I've learned about relationships. And number 19 for me is one of my favorites. And what I learned much more in my later 20s is that friends are amazing. Real friends are amazing. Aww. So make sure you surround yourself with people who want you around for you, not because they want something from you or to serve you.
I love that, because I think if I think about the types of friends that have come into my life over the years, I definitely have culled some. Purely because it's not about, I guess, serve is probably the wrong word. It's more so you're at a different stage of your life where that particular person isn't suited to your lifestyle and how you are as a person anymore. And so you change as a person, you grow, and that person might still be back in high school days or university days, and you maybe have moved on from that phase of your life. And that person's still the same, as an example, right? We all go through that period where we want to surround ourselves with the right people. In the right state of mind. At the time. At the right time.
Exactly. Friends for a reason, friends for a season, and friends for a lifetime.
But I also think in my 20s, I used to have very boxed ideas as to what friendships might look like. And I think I was very used to being friends with like people who are my peers. But in my 30s, I actually started making friends with like people who are a lot older, like through just, you know, activities. Like I made a really good friend out of a 60-year-old marine biologist that we go surfing together in a group, and he is the most like wise and kind and beautiful person ever. And he said to me one time, like, you know, I want to leave the world a better place than I found it. And I just thought that's such a beautiful thing. It makes me emotional still to think about it. And like, just don't let like age or, you know, like someone's how they look to affect or like potentially stop you from being friends with them, because you'd be so surprised.
I agree.
What you learn out of it.
And friends like really help with like recovering from heartbreak, help you lift you up when you're at your lowest. Real friends that really do that. And I think when you're younger, you hang out with a lot of people that you can have fun with.
They look cool. They're cool.
Very image related. But as you get older, you realize who are the ones that stick around during the hard times. And
last but not least,
last one. And I learned this very late in my 20s as I reflect back. And this one is relating to parents. And that the point is that your parents are just trying their best. Like,
don't hate them forever.
And don't hate them forever. Like, I just think back to it and I'm like, my mom had me at my age right now. And I'm thinking about how I am at my age and what I would be like having a baby. And they're also just figuring out life still. So I'm a lot more easier on them as a result.
I think no one tells you how to be a mum, because there's so many, everyone's got their own style.
Or parent, dad.
Or parent, exactly. My mum actually had me when she was 19.
Wow.
In a refugee camp. Like,
jeez.
it's bananas to think that if I was 19 to have a baby in Australia, that's just the start of university and still figuring life out. So there's no way I would have had a baby at 19, right? But I think back now and you know, they do their best with what they know.
Yeah.
And we learn from it, and we can take that and do better because we've got education. My parents didn't really have much of an education in Asia, so I can take what I've learned now and hopefully what they've taught me and make it my own.
Yeah.
Right?
And I think we're all very lucky to have like healthy parents and, you know, like they're all here with us. I think, you know, there are also families where there's a lot of like complicated, you know, family situation, generational traumas. And yes, like as much as you can identify the ways that your parents didn't do well when it comes to parenting you, but it's also now your responsibility to break that generational traumas and patterns for your own children in the future. And yeah, it's very easy to go into that like headspace of like blaming your parents for all the things they didn't do for you. But yeah, 100%, like they were also trying to figure things out.
They're just trying to do their best.
And they're still trying to figure things out.
Yes.
So give them a chance. And, you know, at some point in your life, I think you would definitely think about this time with your parents and think, well, I really wish I sat down with them and asked them all these questions about like, you know, their life lessons or how they did some things. Like, I'm a little bit emotional thinking about it even.
And I think time is going to be limited with them the older you get. So really cherish that with them. So yeah, thank you for listening this far. 20 lessons from our 20s. We hope you enjoyed the episode. So leave a comment, like, and subscribe. And you've been listening to
Let's Take It Offline.